Well, hi, this is Scott Langford. Welcome back to the Stanford Gen YouTube channel, Global Educators Network. I'm here today with Heather Adams, the founder of a global social media platform and peer-to-peer learning community custom designed to support and empower community college transfer students called Transfer Nation. And in fact, as Heather knows, I first learned about Transfer Nation from one of my own wonderful students, Nick Schaefer, whom I've interviewed here on the Gen channel previously. A proud community college transfer student herself, Dr. Adams earned an AA in psychology from Santa Monica Community College and then transferred to UCLA, where she obtained her BA in psychology and then an EDD in educational leadership. She was previously associate director of transfer engagement at the Aspen Institute College Excellence Program, where she led their transfer initiatives. And currently, Heather is director of special initiatives and a transfer student success consultant at Sova Solutions, where her current projects include supporting the California Vision 2030, a roadmap for California community colleges, a partnership between Governor Newsom and the California community college system. So welcome to the Stanford Gen YouTube channel, Heather Adams.
Yay, thank you, Scott. It's so lovely to be here.
Yeah, and we're finally meeting after many, many interactions, meeting online at least, after many, many interactions on LinkedIn and Facebook and many other ways. So the first thing I want to do is take advantage of the fact that I actually don't know that much about your background. I know a little bit, and I was joking with you earlier that you probably didn't wake up at 5 years old and say, I'm going to help transfer students nationwide. So how in the world did you end up building these amazing platforms to help our community college students nationwide?
That is very funny because it is sort of like I had an aha moment at age 36 that I wanted to work in transfer. So I wasn't 5. I was on
Just
the long-term plan.
older, just slightly.
Yeah, slightly older. But I did find my professional purpose, and it was a very aha moment like that, but much later in life. So I have a pretty long educational trajectory, but the bottom line is on the 20-year plan at California community colleges. I moved to California the day after high school graduation, and I grew up here in Maine, where I'm calling from now. And I had always wanted to have a rigorous academic career, but I just, school was a struggle. It was just didn't seem like it was going to be in my trajectory, right?
Right.
Then when I was 36, I was tested for some learning disabilities, and turns out I'm dyslexic and have ADHD, and I'm also have some auditory processing, which is how your brain processes sound. And it was like this moment of realization of, oh my goodness, I now know how my brain works. And I immediately signed up for a full load of classes, like literally that next week at Santa Monica College, finished in, my undergrad community college courses, got a associates in psychology, and then transferred to UCLA. So it was really sudden once it hit.
Did you get tested at Santa Monica City College?
I did.
See, I was guessing because I want to emphasize for all of us in the community college world, I so frequently hear from students who have never understood that they have this or that learning challenge. And I'm very proud of the strength and excellence and professionalism of the disability services at the community colleges. And this is such a common and wonderful, miraculous story, right? That it's the community colleges who finally allow students to figure out what their learning style is. And then they take off like little rocket ships, right? So
that's exactly, you said it well.
Community colleges, and this again, I didn't know this about you, but it fits perfectly in why you're such an advocate for community colleges now.
Well, and I know it sounds, sort of trite maybe, but community college changed my life. I mean, in so many ways. That's one. I was able to get tested. I was able to understand and have folks to talk to about what what the results were and what it meant and what it meant for me as a learner. And then I found my professional purpose there too. Working in community college, I found a community, one of
Yes.
other folks, kind of just this diverse community of a bunch of us, some over 25 or way over 25, others just, starting their educational journey and trying to figure things out. And it was this rich environment
Yes.
that I just loved. So I felt like I found my people. And then my community college professors were also incredibly impactful and influential in where I was going to go. I didn't even think about transferring. I didn't even, I was just going to go to school because people are supposed to go to college. And now I know how my brains works and I'm really excited. But if it weren't for the faculty that I talked to at my institution and some of the advisors as well, I never would have gotten to UCLA. I never would have thought about that as a possibility. And I hear that from students now sometimes too, is that they're until they meet somebody who's got, who's been on that path or who is encouraging and nudging in that direction, they often don't think it's possible. And I certainly didn't.
I think it's one of the central community college stories, and I'm so glad that you're able to tell it from your own heart and position. It makes all the more sense that you do what you do. But in my life, that's
Mm-hmm.
been the miracle story repeatedly over and over and over again. It is one of the main and most beautiful things. And of course, not everybody has to transfer to UCLA. People have lots of different goals, all those other,
Oh, yeah.
but this finding the two things, like suddenly understanding yourself as a learner and finding community, I think are the two most primary factors in the excellence of community college education nationwide. That is what we do so
Mm-hmm.
well. It's one reason the Gen Channel exists, by the way. So thank you for
Oh,
underlining
wow.
that, because as far
Well,
as
you're
I'm
welcome.
concerned, that's the
Boom.
story we're here to tell, right?
We didn't even practice that. We
No,
didn't even plan that. It just
we
like
lived it.
miraculously happened. It's our lives. We live it.
We
No,
lived
I
it.
couldn't agree with you more. And then I think the third thing for me to add to that is the finding professional purpose, right?
Right.
I
Yes.
had been in another career and I just never felt, it didn't feel like what I was supposed to be doing. And so once I got to community college, I believe in community college, like 100%. It changed my life. It can be this incredible, when it works well, community college transfer and community college in general can be an incredible mechanism for economic mobility and social change and racial justice and all of these things that I think a lot of us really are true believers in. Um, and I saw it often not working for a lot of reasons. The way our systems are built, the way learners are today, and the way information is communicated, all of that. And so finding my professional purpose was, that's what community college really did for me and opened up this entire world. I switched careers completely and now I have a doctorate in education.
Yeah.
Not something you would have thought I was going to do if you had met me, 20 years ago.
No, and that's a great story, even though it wasn't at 5 years old, like you say.
Ah,
So
some of us take a little longer in our
oh, there we go.
journeys.
Exactly. I've always been a late bloomer myself.
Yeah.
My first college president, I was very fond of asking me as a young faculty member, "So Scott, what are you going to do when you grow up?" And she still asks me that, by the way. I
But
still
that's
haven't
very funny.
entirely figured it out.
Yeah, well, this is a great thing. And this is one of the things I think, again, community college is so good at is you we change careers a lot. We
Yes.
change
Yes.
interests, our lives change, our
Exactly.
focuses change, our inspirations
We
change.
have that
And that's
freedom.
what's
We have the
yeah, and
freedom.
community college allows that for everybody, regardless whether you're whether you're on a transfer path or some other journey, career wise or educationally. Yeah. So obviously, true believer. I know I'm
Yeah.
speaking to another true
Preaching to the
believer,
other
but
preacher.
it's really
We're both
yeah, yeah,
evangelists. I frequently
yeah,
describe myself when I'm out at conferences or something as an evangelist for the community college systems.
yeah.
It's
I
always
love
to
that.
meet other evangelists under the tent. So
Yes,
there we
no,
go.
I love that. I really do because yeah, that's how I feel. I feel like I'm always talking about it. My license plate is actually Com College from
Oh,
in Maine. Yeah. So when I moved here,
well,
I
that's
just was
getting
like,
pretty
I've never
serious.
done a vanity plate before. So I decided
Well,
to do a vanity plate.
all
Yeah.
right, college. All
Yeah.
right. Well, so why don't you talk to me next then, now that we know how you became so passionate about this in your own life and then
Hmm.
in the lives of students, some of the things that you've built and helped to build to help get the message out, because you are one of the leading voices. For those watching the channel, as mentioned in the intro, you really are one of the leading voices, and you do a wonderful job. I also mentioned to Heather, I first heard about her through one of my students, who was so inspired and thrilled by finding all the resources that you had. So that my introduction as a
Hmm.
compliment to you was not at some, professional conference. It was literally through one of my favorite students ever, who said, "You have got to talk to this woman, Heather Adams, and you have got to see some of the things that she's doing online." And so
Oh my
tell us
gosh.
about
Thank you.
how that all got rolling too, because there's more than one, right?
All right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that the again, it all stemmed from this late in life realization of
Yeah.
what I was meant to do, and my own personal. It's all framed in my own personal experience. So that's also a motivator. Um, but then I got to work with thousands of transfer students at UCLA. So I was really fortunate
Wow.
enough that during my tenure at UCLA, I was the director of the UCLA Transfer Center as the Transfer Center was getting built. So I got to work with transfer students, designing the Transfer Center, talking, like drawing the blueprints of what it was that they wanted, how they wanted to use the space,
Right.
how they wanted students to feel when they walked in this space. And so I got this great opportunity. I mean, it was people have been advocating for a transfer center for decades before I was a student. And then I was a student activist. It was like, we need a center, we need this, this community. And then I got to be actually working there when it was developed. And that kind of just really um, the stories and the experiences of those thousands of students coming through, probably students, your students, students of the folks that are listening to this from every community college in California. And that really sort of ignited this desire to do this work at scale, right? And really reach as many folks as possible, because some people either love either give back to the community because they loved their transfer experience and
Right.
they think they had a great time and they had great mentors like you and great advisors, or they really had a terrible time navigating and they don't want another student to have that experience. Like, I know there's lots of in between, but there's generally this
Oh, that's
dichotomy of experience.
that's very true. That's
Yeah.
very. Were you
Yeah.
there at UCLA when Gene Block? I think you were when Gene Block was chancellor.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll
Oh
mention
yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
mention that Gene. So what we discovered, partly through working on this channel, was that Gene Block was a Foothill College graduate himself, and we just hosted him last year on campus ahead of his. I think he's now retired. Is that right? I think he's now emeritus.
He just retired. Yep.
Yeah, but he
Yep.
came back to Foothill College for the first time in these many years. I think it was 1969 when he was there. And we,
I'm
of course, preened
so glad you
ourselves at
got him
Foothill
there. That's
College
great.
to think that the UCLA chancellor was a graduate of our institution. But as you know, that's not an infrequent story, right? So it can be surprising to our
Yeah.
current students. I love that fact. By the way, I tell students all the
Yeah.
time.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
We were once we found out that he was a first gen and a transfer student. We're a
Cool.
lot of there's and I say we because there's so many people at UCLA that are working on transfer and working on first gen stuff. But eventually he started to talk about it in all his
Yep.
speeches, because we said, like, the moment that you share this, students, they're excited about it. And he did I remember the first time he said, welcome first years and transfers, and the crowd just, like, because you're
Totally.
acknowledging this incredible student body, yeah,
Yeah.
who doesn't often get acknowledged, and it
What
just made a big difference. Yeah, poor
what's
Gene Block. I
what's
would
the
always
what's the percentage of transfer students at UCLA? I don't want to guess wrong. I
so
think I know,
there's
but I think you know better than I do. So
well, I always say there's around 700 7,647 at any given time. Kind of depends when you count.
oh,
So
sure.
basically, right. So basically, incoming students is usually about a 35%. So anywhere from
Yes,
30 to 40% of incoming students. So that's
which
about
people just
31.
don't
That's about
know. People don't know that
right.
in California. Like I say
1,300.
all the time, part of my evangelism, 35% of UCLA, 35% of
Yep.
Berkeley, 35% of the UC system, even more in the CSU systems. People often are unaware of this fact and the fact that our students do better on average than the students who did their first 2 years at UCLA, by the way. So, yo,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And there were, I think it's, I don't know what the current number is or percentages, but I can't
it
imagine it's
doesn't
very
have to
far
be
off.
exact. I'm
About
not trying to be exact. Like,
90, yeah, about 94% of the transfer students at UCLA are from California community colleges.
right.
They're from around 110 of the 116 community colleges. So there's an effort to reach, all regions and areas of California. Um, and there's like a 94% graduation rate too. They do really well. And I love UCLA, but that's because transfers are badasses,
That's
not
right.
necessarily because UCLA is doing everything right. Not that I don't think they're doing good stuff, but I think it's because transfer students themselves are scrappers, and they sort of succeed and make it regardless of the hurdles that we've all put up for them as
Yeah.
administration
Well,
and educators, whether that's inadvertent or not.
I will add, it's also because they get great teaching as freshmen and sophomores at the community college level,
Yes.
right?
Boom.
We're
Yep.
not
It
there
prepares
to
them well.
write our next, grant funded whatever. We're not there. It's not publish or perish. We're
Yep.
evaluated and esteemed based on our teaching, and our teaching, right? And that's what we
Yep.
do. And
Yep.
therefore the students really benefit, right? They really do. So
Yeah. I
evangelizing
was so
again, here
grateful
I
for
go.
that. No, but that's my faculty. I can remember like Simon Baum. I can remember my bio. I went hiking with my math teacher. I did my bio teacher. We used to do these videos actually. I asked him if the labs would be easier if you could see the lab. He'd send us these lab worksheets, right? And I was like, wouldn't it be easier if like we just did a video to show them like what? And he's like, all right, do it. And so we did these. But
That's beautiful.
this was a long time ago, but it was great. Yeah. So but because of them, because of my community college faculty, I really exactly what you said. I was able to thrive at a really challenging transition to the 4 year to the UC system, and so I think you're right. I think there's the faculty and staff at the community colleges are really they're 100% there and present for students,
Right.
and that makes such a difference long term.
Yeah. Made a difference.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
right.
So
Good.
transfer center, and that's kind of so then I got into this world of building transfer centers, right? And like thinking about transfer centers and presenting about kind of transfer centers and talking to other folks around the country. And I'm not to say I think that transfer centers are like the answer to transfer. It's just one of the many things that can be
Yeah.
super helpful in building that sense of belonging in that community and awareness of that community. But the thing that I'm really proud of is Transfer Nation. I think that's kind of how we follow each other through social media. And like the Global Educators Network, it's really for folks who work with transfer students, which is kind of everyone. It's the secret. But it started out for transfer professionals,
Exactly.
right? There's not a lot of professional development in transfer.
Yes.
Community college transfer particularly, right? So when you're in this, and this 20 years ago this was really true, 10 years ago this was true, even 5 years ago, this was true. When you're in transfer, and you have transfer in your title, you often feel alone because you're kind of the only person on your campus probably that has
No, this
transfer
is
in their
important.
title.
Yeah, this is important. I'm
Yep.
glad
Or
you're saying this out loud.
right.
I've felt that
Yep. And
everywhere I've
yeah,
traveled,
from
I've
both.
felt that very strongly, right? Yeah.
I believe that. And yes, I know that to be true. I felt it, and I hear it from colleagues all the time. And I was lonely. I mean, it was kind of a selfish move in a sense. I wanted to learn from other people. Like I was like, look, I am 36. I have got to I got to catch up. I have to like work fast, y'all. Like I don't have 25 years of, education, experience to learn this. And I need people. And I need mentors, and I need people to learn from and brainstorm with. And so I started Transfer Nation as really just a way to connect with other people across the globe, really. I mean, it's a global community of folks who are passionate about transfer. So transfer advocates, transfer professionals, people who were transfers, are transfers, grad students who are transfers, who are proud of their transfer experience. And what we're doing now is trying to really reach that everybody, because frankly, now I'm not so worried about the people with transfer in their title. I'm worried about everybody else on campus who might not understand the nuances of navigating this transfer
Oh,
experience.
yes, exactly.
And so,
Glad to hear you say that.
yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yes, exactly. And on both, I think sometimes also there's a naivete about it that, you know, oh, only community colleges think about transfer, or, oh yeah, once they go to a 4-year, they're not a transfer student anymore. There's so many misnomers and myths about what transfer is and can be. And it's really different for every student. I found that sense of pride, being a transfer as sort of a badge of honor, and that community that I built. And this may be very unique to California. I'm seeing it in other places in the country, but in California, I do think we have a particular tone and vibe on how we talk about community college transfer because of the way it's built into our systems.
Yes, from the ground up, as you know. Yeah. So.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, Transfer Nation is a way to sort of support that message and that celebration of all things transfer in other arenas and other environments other than the transfer ones, where it's just the preachers talking to the preachers or the choir talking to the choir.
Now, for those who haven't encountered the words Transfer Nation, it's basic. I mean, if my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, it's basically an online platform almost entirely, right? You just kind of built this social media presence on LinkedIn, on Facebook, et cetera, which was designed to connect and empower community college students. Is that a reasonable summary of what you've accomplished? Because I'm not actually sure.
Thank you.
That's
writing
the part
that down.
I've experienced.
I'm writing that down on the side. I'm going to write that down on the side as like my new explanation of what it is. No, you said it very well. So it's it's a community of transfer professionals who advocate for, who share information, who trade ideas, who collaborate to improve the transfer experience, and really just transforming it, right? Like, we know it's not working the way it is. Just if you look at the data nationally, I'm sure you've talked about that on this show before. And so this community is really sort of committed to that, revolutionizing the higher ed in that transfer arena. And it started out as an online community. So you're exactly right. We have LinkedIn, where we're really like the news feed. Like, LinkedIn is like what's happening right now in transfer. What are the new reports, new research that's coming out? Who's doing the really interesting and innovative programming and transformation of their models for transfer, and also transfer jobs and things like that. But then we have an Instagram and a TikTok, which we've had to pause a little bit because we're looking for a TikTok manager. So if you're listening to this and you love TikTok, come join us. Yeah. But it works really well. Those are more student facing, right? The Instagram and the TikTok are very student facing. It's where we're having conversations about what transfer even is. celebrating success stories of famous or notable transfer students, sending out tips and insights. And now we have a board, and they're planning on doing office hours for students online, like through TikTok and Instagram. So that's pretty cool. And then our podcast, of course, and VOCast. So we do a podcast called Transfer Nation Talks, which, by the way, why have you not been on the podcast yet, Scott? We got to get you over.
Well, it took me a while to get you on mine, so happy to return the favor.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah. No, I think we should. But the podcast is really about the nuts and bolts of transfer, and it's a lot of conversations like this where people are who work in the field are just talking about a topic, either telling their story or really talking about something that we're wrangling with in the community. Like after the affirmative action situation, like all the conversations were about like how is transfer going to help us solve some of this drama and trauma that's going to result from this, right? So just important, controversial, and issues that give us some angst in the world of transfer. It's just a nice way to have two people talk about it, and sometimes they'll have a very different opinion about the way it should go or could go, which is really interesting and fascinating.
Well, that's the real world. Okay, now since you're from Maine, I'm from Colorado. How did Aspen Institute get involved in all of this stuff? It was one of the things that really surprised me when my student told me about Transfer Nation, because at that point it already came with this Aspen. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm from Colorado. I'm a community college teacher. I'm a great community college teacher, and I'm a great Coloradan. How in the world do I not know about this? So how did that happen?
Well, okay. So and they're different kind of streams, right? Okay. So I really wanted to do this work at scale after working at UCLA and getting to sort of see the impact it could have. I had an opportunity to talk to some of the researchers at the Aspen Institute, because they actually came to California to interview some of the different transfer folks around the state. And I didn't even know that there were jobs like that weren't, I just assumed, I love higher ed, I love transfer, I'm going to work in higher ed and at an institution. I didn't even think about doing, national advocacy or research. So once I found out that existed, I was like, yes, that's what I want to do. And so an opportunity came around actually during COVID for me to start working and overseeing the Tackling Transfer Project, which was their biggest transfer project at the time. And then that led to a lot of other transfer projects. And so Transfer Nation existed like just as my labor of love on the side. And then I got this opportunity to also work at Aspen simultaneously. And so, yeah, exactly. And so they too have so much similarities. I mean, at Aspen, there's really a philosophy on leadership, right? Of focusing on the importance of the college president in the transfer, both community college and receiving institution, that without a visionary college president, or without somebody at that leadership level, cabinet lead level, who's setting a aspirational vision for transfer, the model is never going to change. And my philosophy is a little more grassroots, because that's how I came up. And the way we got a transfer center at UCLA was sort of bottom up versus top down. And so I feel like it's in the middle, right? It takes both. Sure. It takes an aspirational president, or a president who's supportive, like Gene Block. And then it takes a backbone, like transfer, backbone, which is usually the boots on the ground folks who are doing the work day to day. And so that, my Transfer Nation vision is pretty different than the Aspen vision. So they had a nice separation as well, because both are important, and they're doing some good transfer work. They're doing a new playbook right now. So some people may have heard of the transfer playbook or the Aspen Prize. Those are things that happen
and
the Aspen Institute and the college.
Research they did was really important too. I think they've done some really fundamental.
And I'll send you the links to I mean, they just published just last month the the new latest tracking transfer with CCRC, the Community College Research Center. The data is, I mean, if you've looked at like transfer success data, you won't be totally surprised by some of the findings, but it's through, I know, but it's through an equity lens for the first time. So it's really looking at it with disaggregated data for the very first time. Yeah. So that'll be a good report for folks to browse. And they made, CCRC made a dashboard. That's a really cool dashboard where you can look up your own state and see how you're doing. Yeah, in transfer. Yeah, so it's really cool. And then next fall, they're going to publish a new transfer playbook, an updated transfer playbook. So I got to go on a couple of site visits, but they've been doing site visits for months, and they're starting to write now and kind of synthesize all the findings, and that will be out in fall 2024.
All right. Well, so I mean, really, there's three levels, right? So I mean, the grassroots level, which you built, and one of the really the leaders in one of the leaders in the nation. Obviously, there's other programs that support community college faculty and students.
Oh,
but it's really a beautiful.
Hundreds, yeah.
You've got a grassroots level. You've got this top-down thing that's happening through the Aspen Institute's leadership forum, and then there's this data-driven part in the middle. All three of those are absolutely essential. We have to have the data, or we don't know what we're driving blind. And we have to have the leadership, or everything that we try to do gets squashed by people who don't understand what's going on, to put it bluntly, right? That's a very faculty way to put it, but there it is, right? But we also need,
it's fair.
Grassroots outreach to students as well. Students have to understand what's going on as well. So,
well, and I think students have they have such power like they're the ones, the experts in the experience right now. They are living the experience right now. Like I'm a transfer, but my transfer experience was a while ago, and I still hold it as an identity and my lifelong trajectory, but I'm not experiencing it right now.
Yeah.
So I'm not the expert. They are. And if you don't have students, who are giving you feedback, who are talking, who are advocating, who are letting you know when things are working and when they're not working, you can't do any of it either.
But they're the reason for all this. And if it doesn't work for them, then what in the world are we doing? And as the data shows, for a significant number of students, it's still not working, especially students of color, first gen, traditionally minoritized or marginalized students. And we have to do even better. And that's what you've been all about. That's one reason I really love what you've done. You're not just, cheerleader, aren't we wonderful? It's all about how can we do this better, right?
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. Yeah.